Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Yolanda. If this is your first time, welcome. I am sitting on the floor because the sun is right in front of me, like literally. As the sun is going down, it's actually really beautiful. So I wanted to do a quick March wrap up, but I just want to start off this video by saying March was somewhat of an interesting month. I injured my ribcage, injured my back, within a span of 3 days. So I couldn't really sit or lie or be comfortably reading anywhere really. So I kind of had a little bit of a reading slump, and as I was kind of talking to my friends, a lot of them were experiencing the same thing because of course it's been officially over a year now since COVID, and we've been staying at home for a year, and Ontario is on lockdown again. So I didn't really read a whole lot of English novels, but I'm still gonna talk about the books that I read and my opinions on them, and I'm not gonna spoil anything. And yes, I did film a March TBR, and yes, of course, I did not follow. No, of course, I did not stick to my plan. I am very much of a mood reader. I think that's what they call them. Yolk by Mary H.K. Choi. And the sun's going down. I'm gonna scoot over. So this, first of all, has a beautiful, stunning cover. And she has written Emergency Contact and Permanent Record. But this is my first time reading her novel. Essentially, it's about those two siblings, two sisters, their lives in New York or in the States. I think they're originally from Texas, or I think it's Texas. So they have very estranged relationships with each other, with their parents. Her mom was gone for a bit because of something happened. I'm not gonna spoil anything. I had a lot of trouble going through this book because it does delve into eating disorder topic, which was a huge trigger for me. And because it's written in a first person narrative, so you're pretty much experiencing all of her thoughts, all of her emotions, all of her, obviously, activities. I found, and I listened to it on an audiobook, and I found the impacts on me significantly more than I was expecting, which I'm usually not someone who is easily triggered in books. Discuss very important topics when it comes to sibling rivalries in a somewhat of a tough love family setting with Asian parents, of course, with immigrants and all of that. I think it's definitely an important read if you want to read more AAPI, I believe, Asian authors. And of course, if you are an immigrant or if you come from an immigrant family, this definitely can be relatable. But for me, because I am the only child, and this does mostly revolve around the two sisters, so I had a hard time relating to the characters, and because of the triggers and all of that, it was kind of heavy for me. So I personally didn't enjoy it, but I do want to recommend this book for people who want to read more contemporaries and who is around the young adult, new adult age, to get to know more about. I don't actually know how would I recommend this book, and I'm awful at this, but all I want to say is it's a very heavy book, and do your research and make sure you are okay with the triggers. I watched Chloe, Books with Chloe's vlog, where she really enjoyed this book, but she does come from she has a sister, she is half Korean, so she can definitely relate to it a lot more than I do, but it was a little bit hard for me. But the audiobook was okay. I finished the book, which is saying a lot when you are going through a reading slump. Another book that I finished, but this was a monthly pick, or the March pick, for Vintage Book and Wine, hosted by Tiana, Blake, Matthew, and Ace. I tuned into their live discussion, which was beautiful. Again, beautiful, beautiful cover. I loved it. I think the writing style is extremely poetic. I'm someone, if I have to pick between good writing style, beautiful prose, versus good strong plots, I will actually prefer the first, which I know is not the most common. So that's just my personal experience going into this book. Again, extremely, extremely dark. You get a cheating husband right in the beginning, and there's a lot of sort of discussion about the struggle of motherhood and abusive parents and just very heavy topics. You know what, I'll read a quick passage because it has a lot of sort of modern contemporary poetry style in it. Even as a child, I remember the seething feeling that guilt had when I tipped my finger over an insect and another one and another one. I watched the universe blink from life to death, flash over, as they said, a nuclear bomb would. I saw what my fingers could do and I stopped it. That kind of gives you an idea of how this book is written. Definitely very sort of poetic and dreamy and almost a little bit like magical realism, but not quite. And because it's called the Harpy, which is some sort of Greek mythology with the woman that has a bird face, I think, goes to destroy men who, it's revenge for women who are hurt by men, sort of along those idea. Definitely too dark for me, so I listened to the audiobook instead of reading the physical book, as I was able to sort of tune out a little bit when I listened to the audiobook, because it does delve into extremely dark topics. But I do think it's a very well-written book, and the audiobook was only around 4 hours, so it's definitely a quick read, but definitely not for the faint of heart, or if you are, I would say if you are in a happy relationship, you have a very optimistic view towards marriage and children and motherhood and whatever, don't read. All right, moving on. This is my 5-star read of the month. The only 5-star read of the month, and it's textbook Amy Krouse Rosenthal. Not exactly a memoir. I'm actually not sure which part is the title. The author is obviously Amy Krouse Rosenthal. Almost like a memoir, but not quite. It's written in a very funky style, and it has a lot of graphs, charts, very interactive. You can actually, and I like, there are passages that I just really enjoy, and I'll go back and view a few times. I like screenshot a bunch of things that I liked. Took photos, I mean, and the audiobooks actually gives you a text number that you are able to text that number, and they give you sort of interaction throughout the book. So that was very fabulous. So for example, I'll pick something. This is really cute. So one thing on this page literally is blank, and then with a little paragraph here. Short answer. Noticing an older hippie-ish looking couple, Jason turned to me and said, they definitely composed. So Jason is Amy's husband or partner. It has a lot of like just very witty, life-related, thought-provoking ideas or observation. It has, if I remember, it has like minimalism lifestyle, or giving that a try at least. It's broken down into different sort of genres or textbook like courses. So it has like anthropology, history, music, sociology, geography, math, art, and all of that. And it's extremely thought-provoking to me, and just very witty and cute and touching at times. I highly recommend for a feel good book, and the sun is down and completely gone, but a feel good book if you are in somewhat of a slump. I think this is a great option. It's not the most well-known, I don't think, but I think it's adorable, and I recommend it to every single person. The next one is The Au Pair by Emma Rous. I picked it up randomly. It was somehow on my TBR, where I saved it as a TBR, and this was published, I think, like 2018 or something. But it was very boring. Essentially, it's, again, family stories with lots of cheatings. Just a lot of confusing family backstories in England, set in England. The most infuriating thing is it revolves around a nanny, so of course she cheated with the guy. So it's, you know, extremely predictable in that sense. The only thing is that the children are mixed up, so nobody knows like who exactly belong, as they figure out, you know, explore more about their backstories, but like extremely boring to me. I don't know why I finished it, but I just kind of persevered through this book, and I, you know, tossed it aside and called it a day. That was one book I finished, but wish I didn't pick it up. The last thing, I leave the most controversial one to the last. The Poppy War. Let me just start by saying I will not continue with the series. I appreciate, yes, I really do appreciate the author's efforts in bringing in a lot of Chinese mythology, histories, paying respect to the histories of a very turbulent time. But because I am from a Chinese background, so I am somewhat of aware of that part of history, I don't feel very comfortable. I had to take a pause because I know this is very, very controversial. So the Poppy War, I know the internet loves it, the book community loves it, everyone praises it, very much like these violent delights. I'm personally not comfortable of having that part of history, which is so brutal, to be explored in a fantasy setting. I personally just don't feel very okay with that creative freedom there, which of course it's my opinion and it's my personal, you know, I don't know what to say about it. What I would say, how I would describe it is that it kind of feels like, say an author took the history of Nazi Germany and put it in like Peter Pan as some of the characters. Obviously not part of the Nazi Germany, but you know, from the opposing party. And I don't know, it just, you know, it's in a very dark, explores extremely dark concept in history, and having those name drops almost of mythology or, I don't know, like cartoon names being referenced, or just pretty much just taken as a name without really bringing in more from that. Yeah, I'm not okay. I don't feel okay about it, and I did research on this book on how the Chinese feel about it, who are not American Chinese, like American born Chinese, but actually, you know, raised and grew up in China. Most of them don't feel okay about it. It feels very mumbo jumbo of too many things, too many elements that don't necessarily go together, being sort of mushed together. But that's okay. I am, you know, creative freedom. Everyone can do what they wish for. And again, I respect the fact that this does bring more people aware, make more people aware of that part of history. But okay, so that sort of sums up this month's or last month's March reading. And if you, you know, of course, if you like this video or if you like my channel or all of that, please thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And I really appreciate all of that. And thank you so much for your time. Most of us were aware it was a very difficult time for a lot of us. On top of COVID, we had, you know, a lot of racism towards the PI community, and I highly respect all of the works being put out, and people were, you know, really the outpour of love and support for the community. But I definitely will leave as much information down below, and I really want to recommend Blake's video on this topic and the book community's relation to this topic specifically. A certain author's behavior, which is not acceptable at all, in my opinion. So again, if you are experiencing or have experienced racism, whatever your background is, I am very sorry that you have experienced this, and we really do have to educate people. We have to vocalize ourselves, or really be vocal about what's right and what's wrong, stand up for yourself, but also really make sure you are safe, which is the most important thing. Do not put yourself under any potential physical risks under any circumstances. Just, you know, protect yourself in this very turbulent time, and please show support and love towards the community. And I really do appreciate all of the efforts. I'm just gonna say an outro here. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe. Please do everything you can to support the community. And thank you so much for watching, and have a lovely day. Goodbye.